Chapter 10. The Ghostly Figure. Joe turned the receiver anxiously, trying to restore a clear signal. Hardy's to Sal. Come in, please. Hardy's calling Sal. There was no response. The two boys looked at each other, worried and mystified. What do you suppose went wrong with the transmission, Joe? His brother muttered. Search me. What I'm wondering is whether Jack's okay. The brothers ran up the basement stairs and dashed out stairs. Shading their eyes, they scanned the sky. Jack's plane was now a mere speck in the blue, rapidly dwindling from sight. It was heading on a southerly course. At least he's still up there, Frank said, half under his breath. Yeah, let's just hope he makes it all the way, wherever he's going. The boys went indoors and tried for a while longer to re-establish radio contact with Sky Picel, but the efforts were unsuccessful. Frank and Joe returned to the living room and slumped into comfortable chairs. I tried to know what Jack was trying to tell us, Joe brooded. So would I. The message was weird. Joe furrowed his brow, trying to make sense out of the few words he had filtered through. If the tigers bite, what could that possibly mean? Don't ask me. It's Greek to me. I don't know. Frank scowled in deep thought. Tigers might be referred to as animals in some zoo, I suppose. Or maybe to tigers being brought into a country by some animal importer. Joe shook his head. Sounds pretty far-fetched. Jack was flying south. That might mean he was heading for the Caribbean area. Maybe. So what? Well, they have jaguars down in Central America, and in Spanish, the jaguar is called tigre. For that matter, what about tiger sharks? Frank broke off abruptly and sprang from the chair. Wait a minute! We must be getting tappy with the heat! We can find out where Jack's going just by checking with the airport tower! Frank strode to the telephone in the front hall and dialed. He talked for a few moments, then hung up and returned to the living room wearing a frustrated expression. The tower operator said that Jack didn't file a flight plan, which probably means he's just making a brief local flight. Then we should be hearing from him soon, Joe suggested. Well, we hope, Frank added, crossing his fingers. Just then a car pulled up in front of the house with a squeal and series of loud backfires. Don't tell me. Let me guess. It's Chet Wharton, said Frank. Joe grinned and glanced out the window at Chet's red jalopy. Who else? He went to open the front doors of Chucky. Frank came bounding up the walk. Hi, Hercules. How did you make it on the Amethyst Trail? Joe asked. We didn't. Chet went into the living room and flopped on the sofa. Those girls, Chet can't remember where they picked up the stone, and we didn't find any new ones either. Tough luck, Chip and Frank sympathized. The Hardys gave Chet news of the latest developments, including Jack Wayne's radio message. Tigers! Chet's eyes bulged. I hope you're not going to be bumping into any of those in this case. He paused to sniff the aroma wafting from the kitchen. Do I smell chicken? Fried chicken. Miss Hardy paused the door and smiled as she glanced in. And they're behind to go with Aunt Gertrude's hot biscuits. Would you like to have dinner with us, Chet? One eye? Boy, and how? But I better call my mom and let her know. An hour later, the meal was just over and the doorbell rang. Frank went to answer it. Telegram for Frank and Joe Hardy, said a messenger. Frank signed for it and ripped open the yellow envelope as he brought it to the living room. Hey, it's from Dean Gibbs at the Western State University. He read the telegram aloud. Professor Darrow's sister eager to find him. If possible, please contact Professor. Ask him to call her. Whoa, what a break! Joe exploded. Frank looked puzzled. How do you figure that? This gives us a perfect excuse to go right onto the Perth mansion and find out what's going on, Frank explained. Want to come along? Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe you better cut me out. Don't be chicken, you're coming with us, Joe said, slapping the plump youth on the back. Frank said, I just thought of something. If Professor Darrow taught crime detection methods, maybe we can find some articles by him in Dad's journals. That'll give us some material to work up a conversation with him. It might even furnish us a clue into his research project. Good idea, Frank and Joe agreed enthusiastically. In the father's study, the Hardys checked the annual index of each 3 criminology journals to which their dad subscribed. They could only find one article authored by Adam Darrow. It dealt with the new data power of light beams. Although the article gave no hint of Darrow's present field of research, it did include a photograph of the professor demonstrating some ultraviolet equipment. He wore eyeglasses and was bald, with a rumpled fringe of gray hair. Well, at least we know what he looks like, Joe remarked. The boys hurried up to the Hardy's convertible. A red glow of sunset suffused the western sky as they drove out of Bayport's residential district into the wooden outskirts of town. Soon they pulled up on the dirt lane directly in front of Perth Mansion. "You fellas handle it. I'll stay in the car." Grinning, Frank and Joe walked up to the tree-covered slope to the house. Joe pressed the doorbell and moments passed. He was about to ring it again when suddenly a door opened. A tall, dark-haired, hatched-faced man confronted them. It was Noel Strang. What do you want?" Giving the boys a hard stare. We have a message for a man who lives here," Frank said. "I live here. What is it?" "We mean Professor Adam Darrow," Frank said, displaying the telegram. Strang reached out to take it, but Frank made no effort to give him the paper. "Sorry, but the message is personal. It's from his sister." "Too bad. Professor Darrow suffered a nerve breakdown from overwork and had to leave on a long vacation, and I have no idea how to reach him." "Did he go out of the country?" Joe spoke up. "If so, maybe we could—" The door slammed on the boys' faces. Frank and Joe looked at each other uncertainly. Then they turned and started down the veranda steps. In the gathering dusk, a light suddenly blazed on the upstairs window. Joe glanced over his shoulder, then clutched Frank's arm. "Look!" he exclaimed. Through the window curtain they glimpsed a man who seemed to resemble Professor Darrow. An instant later, he moved out of sight. Strings is probably watching us," Frank muttered. "Let's go." At the car, they discussed their next move. "Let's drive around until it gets dark, then come back and keep watch on that window," Joe suggested. "Okay," Frank agreed. Leaving the dirt lane, the boys cruised back and forth along the main road until darkness had closed in. Then they returned and parked their convertible well out of range of the house. Taking flashlights, the boys started up the slope. Chet was not enthusiastic, but agreed to accompany them. Suddenly, Frank paused. The moonlight glinted off something on the ground. He switched on his flashlight cautiously, covering the lens with the fingers to shade the glow. There lay the square tile surface that Chet had described to them. The dragon design was formed in colored mosaic. "That's it!" Chet whispered excitedly. "How come we couldn't find this before?" Joe said. "Maybe it's because it was covered over with bush and loose shrubbery on purpose," Frank reasoned. Before they could examine the spot more closely, Chet gasped and pointed off to the left. A white figure was moving slowly among the trees. "It's that spook again! This time, let's nail him!" Chet moved his lips in speechless terror, but rather than being left behind, he went lumbering off after the two Hardys. Frank and Joe sprinted straight toward the ghostly figure, determined not to exclude them a second time, but the phantom had already seen them and went darting off like a vanishing wasp of mist. The pursuit circled and zigzagged about the mansion ground, and Chet soon lost all fear as he became convinced that the fleeing specter was only flesh and blood. He enjoyed in the case with zest, its sturdy legs pumping as if he was pursuing a rival's team ball carrier on the Bayport High football field. Frank was in the lead, with the two other boys on either side searching swiftly among the trees. Hey Joe, can you see him? I think he went that way." There was no answer. Frank glanced over his shoulder, then gasped. Joe had disappeared. "Oh no, where did Joe go? Man, it seems like every single ending has to be bad. Well, I know you guys are going to hate this, but you're going to have to stay till next time to find out what happens. See you at Chapter 11. Sign up for now."